What is the craziest excuse someone has given you that ended up being true? Hired an employee via phone interview and she didn't show up first day at work. Called her up, she said she did come to work and received orientation. HR said they didn't give anyone orientation. Turns out she went to wrong address and they had an orientation for a dozen new hires and she somehow got in and tagged along. We had a tech take leave 4 times in a year because her grandmother died. Same excuse every time. When called on her bullshit, she pulled up obituaries, and I'll be damned if she didn't have 4 lesbian grandmas. Really sucks to lose that many people in a year too. I'm gonna be late, there's a naked crackhead on my roof, waiting for police. You can just say you're running late. Dude, picture message of a naked crackhead on his roof. Wow, there is a naked crackhead on your roof. Do what you gotta do, I'll cover. I'm a high school teacher. 10 years ago I had a student say he didn't do the homework because his car caught fire on his ride home, and his textbook was in the back seat. I was suspicious, but he quickly produced the badly charred textbook, which was also completely waterlogged from when the fire department put out the fire, and asked me if I could issue him a new one. It's possible that he burned and soaked his textbook in an effort to getting out of doing the homework. If that was the case, bravo. I was late to work once because a peacock was in the middle of the road. Boss didn't believe me until the next day when the peacock blocked the road when he was coming in. My excuse. The night before I went to sleepaway camp in middle school, I hear a glass shatter in the kitchen at 2 AM. I go to investigate and find a broken beer bottle on the counter and beer everywhere. Start to clean it up and parent come to find me. Tell them it exploded and they don't believe me. Say I'm in trouble after I get back from camp. By the time I get home, nearly all of my dad's homebrew bottles exploded. I worked in collections and this woman literally had the worst luck. She made min wage but was part-time and struggled getting hours. She missed her car payments a lot but would almost catch up, and a string of shit happened within a month, including she lost a day's pay, BC someone got stabbed to death in the store she worked in. True. Her son stole her money from her purse that was for her car payment. I remember her crying so hard and I let her go because she seemed serious. Her son then got stabbed almost to death because of a bad drug deal. True. And made me believe the story about him stealing money. Then her youngest son did something in the kitchen on the stove and burned their entire house down. I quit shortly after, but I wonder if her luck ever got better. Life really shit on her. I had someone who had to take 2 weeks off of work because he said he had to go back to Nigeria to be crowned ruler of his province. So I was like, so you're a Nigerian prince, eh? Well, turns out Nigeria has a lot of royal families of different areas and the dude working for me was a legit Nigerian prince. I'll be damned. Edit, for those asking, he worked as a security guard. And yes, he was returning to Wakanda. Edit 2, for real, the guy became the king of his principality and returned to work as a security guard. How did the relationship change? Well, I started addressing him as Your Majesty, not being patronizing at all. I was honest to God trying to show the man respect. He brought me back this cool dagger as a thanks for letting him take so much time off. People around the office figured out he was legit, but every once in a while somebody caught me addressing him properly and they'd be like, why the frick are you calling Frankie Your Majesty? So I'd have to explain he's a king in Nigeria. And you can imagine how that conversation went. A co-worker of mine said he couldn't come into work because the police wouldn't let him. Everyone at work called bullshit, and then he sent us a picture from his window of a SWAT sniper using his car to monitor another building in his complex. Apparently there was a hostage situation. Everyone ended up being safe. Someone was running late for something due to a traffic accident, and the road being closed. So they tried an alternate route, and that was closed for a different incident. So they called, said that they'd try another way. The third route was blocked for something else. They called again, said they gave up and went back home. Checked the news, and they weren't making any of it up. There was no escape from their neighborhood for a while that day. several main roads were shut down for various reasons. An employee missed a few days at work because he had been arrested and jailed. Told me it was a mistake and he was innocent. Turned out he was right. I showed up to a class with only 45 minutes left. My teacher was going to give me detention. I told him that I had rescued a rooster that was in the hallway, and the guidance counselor and I had taken him to the SPCA. Even I knew it sounded far-fetched. He yelled at me and told me to sit down. My guidance counselor ran in then and exclaimed, "Guess what we just did? No detention for me." Sorry mate, a swan wouldn't let me out the car. Turns out it was true, as he was on the phone to his mum screaming, and she takes great joy telling us this story. No luck catching those swans? It's just the one swan, actually. Not me, my friend. First date with a girl he was crazy about, she stood him up. She calls him 2 days later to apologize, saying she was in the hospital. I talk him into giving her another chance. Turns out she really was in the hospital. They've been married over 15 years now. When my friend and I moved into our first apartment together, we thought it was cursed for a while. We both worked at the same shop, usually on different shifts. About a month after moving in, she left for work, got about 10 steps down the road and saw a police cordon. The officer at the cordon was confused as to where she had come from, since everybody within the area had been told not to leave their building, but this message obviously hadn't got to us for whatever reason. She couldn't get past and had to turn around and go home because apparently a World War II bomb had been uncovered on a nearby construction site. So our boss was told, "Yeah, I might be late for work, there's a bomb." About 2 weeks later, I went to leave for work, and when I opened the door to our flat, I was confronted with a long black bag propped up in the hallway against my neighbor's door. There was nobody around for a second or two and I was very confused. Then a paramedic appeared, looked at me looking at the bag and told me to go back inside my flat, which I did because what else can you do? I closed my door and just stood in the same spot for about 5 minutes in total silence, processing what was going on. Then a policewoman knocked on my door and apologized, told me to make myself a cup of tea, I am British, and stay inside for a while. The black bag was in fact a body bag, and my neighbor's body was inside it because he had passed out drunk and choked on his own vomit, which is a real thing that does happen apparently. So then our boss got a call from me saying, "Sorry, I'm gonna be late. There's a corpse in my hallway at our work Christmas party that year. We got an award for the best true reasons for being late he had heard in his 25 years as a manager." My dog really did eat my homework when I was in grade school and my mom had to write me a note. I got a call once to go cover a shift for a co-worker as she has a horse at her house and she has to wait for it to be picked up. I laughed when I heard it, but she sent me photos and apologized about me having to do her shift, explaining the horse belongs to her mother and she often rides it to her house because the neighbor kids like it and stuff. Turns out the horse got out the stables and decides to go for a long walk overnight, and she was startled by some rattling at the open window in the living room. She thought somebody had broken in, so ran in with a knife and found a horse head sticking through her open window into the living room like, "Sup, got food? I've been walking all night and I'm hungry." Her parents came with their horse trailer thing to get it, but it took a while before they could arrive. The elevator at my university's library got stuck. The security guard said it would take 3 hours to get us out. The girl beside me starts panicking. She's supposed to write a final exam in a few minutes. So the security guards called the professor to tell them that their student won't be at the final because she's stuck in the elevator. An employee was late to work because she had to scrub down her car after her friend gave birth in it. They were on their way to the hospital and didn't get there fast enough. The battery died in her key fob for her car and she had to walk to the store to get a new battery because she didn't know how to get in the car without it. He got into a car accident because he sneezed. That's pretty legit. My dad almost drove us off a cliff one time because he sneezed. My neighbor's house blew up and the cops won't let anyone leave. Was an active meth lab and he couldn't smell squat, apparently. Asking someone I knew to go to the bar and hearing I can't, I got stabbed turned out to be true. He sent me the video footage from the bar he was stabbed at, over a game of pool arguing over the rules. The guy waited in bushes until bar close and stabbed him in the back. Cops did get the guy and the victim was okay after the hospital. My friend came to class back in high school with a ripped uniform shirt and told us the Lions got it. As it turns out, his mum was a vet for a zoo and had 2 cubs in her backyard. They saw his shirt flapping on the line and did what cats do, shredded it.